Now for the exciting part. Never quite know what's going to happen at this stage. I'm going to start by putting some water onto the flesh tones. And I can push a little bit of colour up into the hair here. You can see that you can blend the colour. If you've just applied the colour quite lightly with your pencil, it should blend in quite easily. If it doesn't, just give a little swish around with the brush there and mix it all in. I'm not going to do the eyebrows at this stage because I don't want them to run completely into the rest, so I'm going to just be a little bit more careful, work around with the brush. I want this highlight here, so at this stage I'm just going to take a bit of tissue and just while it's still wet, just blot that out. Continuing down. The sort of brush you can use a brush that needs to have a little bit of spring in it, so probably a sort of synthetic sable mix is a good one for water-soluble pencils. You can see the colours coming in now, not just one flesh tone colour, but you can see the pink coming out, the yellow, etc. A little bit of red. Plenty of water on because make it all nice, mix in nicely. Around the lips. So say I don't want the colour from the lips to run completely into the flesh tones. You can do those separately. Don't worry about these bubbles, they'll disappear. Into the neck, just around the hair carefully. There's a little bit of masking fluid on the edge of the chin, so that's going to pull the chin away from the neck. Keep it all nice and fluid and moving. And this is her lacy top, so you can see I could pull the colour down from here and swish it over the top. There's a lot of masking fluid there, so I didn't actually colour over that bit. I can just move it in there. Let's just go back in now and just sort this out a little bit. Now, at this stage, I'd quite like to, I'm just going to re-wet this. I'd like to put a little bit more colour into her forehead. It's looking a bit yellow. So I can go back and use my mid-vermilion and lift the colour off the end of the brush and just drop it in. Remembering that these colours will dry lighter, just like watercolour. They will dry a little bit lighter. Right, I'm just going to lift the highlight out of the cheek there while it's still wet. There we are. And I'm just going to squeeze the water out of my brush and just soften this highlight a bit so I don't get a hard, round lump there. The next thing I'm going to do is just going to put some water on the eyes and the eyebrows and the lips. So we've got a full picture of the face so we know where we are. If it runs a little bit into your wash, it doesn't matter. They're still defined. It gives it actually a more natural look. Right, into let's just go over the line of the eyelashes. And this sort of reddish brown colour I'm going to take and just start to lift it off one area and just put it into round to start creating a little bit of shadow around the eyes. Just blend that in a bit. You can see that it's a bit like magic painting, that sort of painting you did when you were a child. Into the nose, the nostrils working there, and again let's just take some of this, soften it a bit, and just a little bit too much water there, just soften it and bring this down around as a shadow under the nose. You see with water-soluble pencils how much more control you have with them. Just going straight in with watercolour. Much more forgiving medium. Right, lips. And bottom lip. Now that hasn't really come out with as much colour as I wanted, so let's just put a little bit of red in there. Again, lift the colour off the end of the pencil with your brush and just drop it in. Now I'm going to add some water to the hair. Swish the paint in. Now with the hair it's not so important to get it smooth looking as is the flesh tone, so you can use some of the pencil lines if you want to, just leave them there. In fact, we can add a few more if necessary. If you think areas need to be a little bit darker, you can draw straight into the wet wash, and the marks that you now make will be much darker, much heavier. You can wash them in a little bit while it's wet. Get a few more under here, because we've got this hair going over, so we've got a little bit of shadow under here. Of course, the masking fluid will only show up if the area around it is darker. And quite dark underneath here. Let's just put a bit of water on. The water-soluble pencils won't really work on damp paper, they work on dry paper and on wet paper. So if you want the mark to be very heavy, you've got to wet the paper and go in with the pencil like that. Let's put some water now onto the clothing. This was our greeny blues. I want this edge to be quite soft, so I'm going to put quite a bit of water on and then just squeezing the water out of the brush and just lifting a bit off. Just take that up there to sort of indicate the shoulder line a little bit. Just lift a little bit off here to get some light through there. Give a little bit of shape to the edge of the hair there. Leave that light. And just soften that edge so it fades away. I'm just going to leave that to dry now. That's all completely dried now. I've taken the masking fluid off and I'm going to do some finishing touches. I'm going to start with the eyes, give them a little bit more definition. Okay, taking care not to go over our highlights. Give a bit more brown to her eyes. And there's a little shadow cast from the top lid over the white of the eye itself. This is using an indigo, just slight, you get a slight bluish grey there coming in, and that will define also the highlights a little bit better, this highlight here. Now let's sort out the bottom lid. This is using a sort of a warmer colour. Right, I'm just going to add a little bit of shading here under this bottom lid. We've got this light line around the eyes. And a little bit to the eyebrows. Definition back in the eyebrows. To the nose. A little bit more shadow in that top lip, and then round. Now we've got this highlight here, just a little bit of definition round. You've got quite a full lip, shading into there. And a little bit of shading down on the face where the hair is just falling over. Face there and into the neck. Let's just do a little bit more into the hair now. Some slightly darker lines, giving a little bit more body to the hair, shape of the hair. Just around her chin, that gives a bit more definition to her head, around the hair. I'm just going to add a little bit more definition to the eyes, particularly that, just the edge of the iris there, and add a little bit of shadow to give some depth to the eye. Just either side. Right, I think that's the portrait of Lisa finished now. In the next programme, I'm going to be doing a portrait of Mohammed in pastels.
Now available on DVD. Try these techniques yourself at home whenever you wish. The extended version of today's workshop is now available to order on DVD from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.